Good Wednesday evening, Northeast Ohio. Power 5 meteorologist Phil Sakel here. And if you've looked outside over the last several hours, you've noticed a lot more snow, and we're going to be seeing a lot of it over the next almost week to week and a half as the pattern has continued to bring more of that cold air southward. So I want to take a look at the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and this is bringing a lot of that cold air southward. So all those darker colors, those purples, light pinks is definitely showing signs of a very cold pattern. You have to head out towards the west to see anything more ridge-like that brings a lot more warmth. So this is going to continue for the foreseeable future, folks. So you want to be prepared, keep the layers handy, the hats, gloves, scarves, and also the shovel, as we're going to be needing it a lot between now and the end of January, as this pattern is going to be a little bit more relentless throughout the next 4 to 7 days. So right now, Power 5 picking up a lot more snow here in Northeast Ohio. It was a little rainier across parts of the I-77 corridor points south and east, but everything has transitioned back over to snow here in Northeast Ohio to round out this Wednesday evening. More widespread, at least for the time being, but once we get past, say, 11, 12, 1 a.m. tomorrow morning, this is going to transform more towards a lake effect event for most of the snow belt. Going to be the more significant snow throughout the second half of the overnight tonight and mostly through the day tomorrow. So if you have any travel plans for the morning, especially on Thursday, you will want to delay it or take plenty of extra time, as this snow is going to be pretty significant for most of the snow belt throughout the latter half of tonight. Through the majority of the morning tomorrow, it will slowly start to taper off once we get into the afternoon. But let's talk our at least advisories and at least the lake effect snow warnings that we do have in place across Northeast Ohio for the foreseeable future. As we take a look at the maps right now, if I could find that quickly. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So we have a lot of lake snow warnings, not traditional lake snow warnings. We're under one in Lorain County right now, Medina, Summit, Portage County, not typical, but it is possible to see these warnings in place. Ashtabula, Geauga, and Lake County and Cuyahoga County, more traditional lake effect snow warnings in place, at least to the end of the evening tomorrow. And we have advisories kind of at least dovetailing most of the counties just to the south and west. And a lot of these will be starting to go out once we get through the second half of this evening. So let's take a grand tour right now. Sandusky and Seneca County, that goes through about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So once we get past tonight, things will start to improve during the mid and late morning tomorrow. A little bit further east around Erie towards Huron County, that goes through about 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So a little bit more inundation with some of that snow. Richland and Ashland County, 10 a.m. tomorrow, that advisory will start to go away. And then once we get into Wayne County, about 10 a.m. tomorrow, and then Stark, Mahoning, and Trumbull goes all the way through 7 p.m. tomorrow. And all of these lake effect snow warnings go through 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. So, yeah, it's going to be a pretty prolonged, or at least expansive snow time for the next 12 to 18 hours through most of Northeast Ohio. And those bullseyes, those lake effect snow warnings, are going to be the highest totals once we get into the latter half of this evening through the majority of the morning tomorrow. So let's take a look at one of our computer guidance products right now. Doing a pretty decent job as we get closer to 9 o'clock, a little bit more of that west-northwesterly wind, and that'll keep a lot more of that lake effect snow in place during the latter half of this evening and really intensify that potential for more steady, if not heavy snow at times. So visibilities are going to be going down, and take a look at the forecasted temps with some of these models already into the teens for many areas. In fact, let's take a look at current temperatures right now as they have been dropping pretty rapidly between the last 4 to 5 hours. We're looking at some lower 20s for most of the western half of our viewing area. Still a little bit of warmth across the eastern third of our counties, around Youngstown at 32, Carrollton at 33, but that will be fleeting. A lot more of that cold air from the north and northwest will continue to move in for the foreseeable future. And wind chills are certainly a very different story. It is feeling more like 6 degrees above zero in Fremont, 7 now in Mansfield, 13 in Norwalk, 11 in Cleveland, and 13 Akron, 15 in Canton. And it's going to get even colder still, folks. Unfortunately, wind chills are going to be in the dangerous category, single digits, if not below zero. A good bet for most areas tonight through the majority of the day tomorrow. So, yeah, we're not looking great as far as anything warm per se. So at least the snow starting to move more towards the lake effect once we get into the second half of this evening, so that'll bode well a little bit more for our south and western communities later tonight. So if you're traveling early tomorrow morning, say in through Mansfield, Ashland, Norwalk, up towards Fremont, I think it'll be still a slow go. All the snow and ice will definitely cause some issues on the roadways, especially some of the back roads, but it's not going to cause as many more issues tomorrow. But where we will see a lot more issues, Greater Cleveland, Geauga, Lake, Ashtabula, even into Ravenna, Akron, Summit, and Medina counties still under the gun for a lot more of that potential of some significant snow through the second half of the overnight tonight through the day tomorrow. So this is about 1:30 in the morning. Model trending more towards the lake effect side of things, going to get a little bit more steady, perhaps even heavy. More organization starts to take shape during the second half of the overnight tonight. And then primarily morning commutes, definitely going to be iffy. We're going to be talking a lot more significant snow, more visibility issues, and my goodness, it's going to be a very cold start, especially when you factor in those wind chills. Below zero, folks, not out of the question to begin the morning. So if you have to be out, give yourself plenty of time. Set that alarm earlier than anticipated, perhaps even an hour earlier, as you'll have to clean off the car, obviously, if you did leave your vehicle outside. And your side street, wherever your house is or your apartment, may not have been cleared completely. It may take a few times before at least a lot of these plows get a lot of that snow out of the way. ODOT will do its best. It certainly does do a great job of keeping most of the freeways a little bit better, but certainly with this amount of snow in the snow belt, it's going to be a very slow go around I-90, Route 2, 77 south towards Akron, 71 south towards Medina, and anywhere pretty much within the snowbelt region of Northeast Ohio. Going to be very treacherous travel to begin the morning tomorrow. So like I said, just give yourself plenty of extra time if you are going to be traveling anywhere here in Northeast Ohio. The other question a lot of folks have been having, will schools be closed? There is a possibility. I do not make that judgment. I'm not a superintendent and or a principal of any school here in Northeast Ohio, so we'll definitely have to keep an eye on things, but there is a good potential of some school closings, certainly in the snow belt for the majority of at least the morning hours tomorrow. We'll have the latest on Good Morning Cleveland beginning at 4:30, and we'll have the latest again during the afternoon hours and evening once the snow does begin to taper off. So school closings, a good possibility. I'm not saying a guarantee, but definitely we'll have some school closings to pass along for the day on Thursday, as many schools will definitely have to be a little bit more treacherous to get to most of the schools in the snow belt. I think there'll be a potential for more schools to stay open the further south of at least the Route 30 corridor. So sorry, those in Dover, New Philly, Coshocton schools, Millersburg, I think a better chance of maybe seeing school in session, but the further north and east, the better chance of seeing those more significant snow totals causing more concern. So in the meantime, a lot more of that snow does continue to stick around throughout the early half of the afternoon. This model suggests even as early as about 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm not too keen on that just yet. I still anticipate some more snow even into the mid and late evening hours across parts of the snow belt. But the trend will definitely be there for less and less snow as the evening progresses. So things will get a little bit better for the second half of the evening on Thursday through the day on Friday. But we're not done with this snow. We're going to be talking a lot more of it as we take a little bit more of a wider view with some of these snowfall potentials. So this is our main system moving through late tonight through the wee hours of tomorrow morning. So this is about noon tomorrow on Thursday. We'll still see some potential of some snow out there off of Lake Erie, Lake Michigan, and definitely Lake Huron and Superior under a little bit more of that snow potential. But as we fast forward this model, it will continue to dry out. But look at right behind it, another clipper that'll start to move in by Friday morning. So a lot of the snow from this one will not be as intense as it will be throughout the overnight tonight into the morning tomorrow. But the secondary low will bring more snow showers for the afternoon and evening on Friday, causing a little bit more concern yet again. So that potential will be there for more snow. And folks, we're not done just yet. Mother Nature making up for lost time over the last several winters. So we have one system moving through. That front will push through during the morning hours of your Saturday. A little trough swinging in right behind it, bringing more potential of some snow showers in for the first half of the weekend. And that potential will continue, unfortunately, with yet another clipper that'll start to move in late on Sunday into Martin Luther King Day. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty much the conga line of at least clipper systems over the next 4, 5, even 6 days. So don't put away the shovels anytime soon. More snow on the way. We'll be looking at some colder air once again. Temperatures well below average for at least the next week as we take a look at those anomalies compared to average. We normally are around 36 to 37 this time of the year. I don't see anything close to that. In fact, we might even be 20 degrees below average by Tuesday, maybe about 17 to near 20 by the afternoon tomorrow. A little bit of reprieve by Friday and Saturday, but not much. And most of these numbers continue to stay below average at least through the latter half of next week. So, yeah, we're in for the long haul here in Northeast Ohio with more of this cold air. Now, as far as snowfall totals, over the next 12 to 18 hours, here's what we're thinking right now. So the heaviest totals certainly will be across the snow belt. So those areas in eastern Cuyahoga, southern parts of Lake, Geauga County, Ashtabula, that's going to be your bullseye. That's where most of the significant snow will lie. Outside of that, you'll definitely need to find the shovel, a good 2 to 4 inches across parts of Norwalk, north of Ashland, north of Worcester, in between Akron and Canton, another round of potential 2 to 4 inches. And then north of Akron, towards Medina, that 4 to 8 inch range, not out of the question. So that does include Elyria, Medina, Greater Cleveland, all of Cleveland's suburbs, with the exception of probably the I-271 corridor and points east for a little bit more, at least significant snow potential. And we'll be looking at a lot of this throughout the overnight tonight through the day tomorrow. So this goes through about 7 o'clock on Thursday evening. And as far as the snow belt, where the squalls persist, obviously, will be the higher totals as we do get into the second half of this evening. So Chardon towards Jefferson, Orwell, Middlefield, Solon, right around I-271, Beechwood, Lyndhurst, towards even parts of Bedford and Solon could potentially see a good 4, 8, 9, 10 inches if squalls do persist in a few of these locations, but they will ebb and flow, so we hopefully won't see too much in the way of at least those double-digit ratings, but the potential will be there for 10 to maybe a foot of snow in some locations across the primary snow belt, and even as far at least west as Elyria could see about 4 to 8 inches. So pretty much looking at our first widespread significant lake effect events outside of a little bit of snow during the latter half of last week. Certainly a big to-do across Northeast Ohio for the end of the overnight tonight, and especially into the morning tomorrow, where that morning commute will definitely be a very, very treacherous one. So give yourself plenty of extra time. And those winds will be relentless. Wind chill factors going to be at least below zero at times between throughout the second half of the evening through the overnight tonight. And a lot of those single-digit wind chill factors, a good possibility even into the afternoon and evening tomorrow. So, yeah, it's going to be a very, very wintry kind of at least Arctic blast, so to speak, here in Northeast Ohio. Let's take a look at some of the ODOT cameras right now. This one points to definitely something we talk about every winter, bridges and overpasses. My goodness, they are always susceptible to seeing more potential of icing and or snow cover first, as the cold air can get right underneath it and causing some big concern. This is I-480 at the Turnpike. And yeah, definitely some big issues on some of those bridges and overpasses. The at least 480 corridor, not too bad, but that overpass just around that intersection definitely causing concern. You can see these cars just kind of barely moving across that overpass right now, and that's going to be the case for the overnight tonight into the morning tomorrow, as a lot more of that snow will be with us throughout the overnight tonight into Thursday morning. So ODOT doing a pretty good job so far on 480, keeping things pretty clear and a little bit more in the way of sustainable, but snow continues to pile up throughout the overnight tonight, so it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult task for even the most seasoned snowplow driver to get a lot of that cleaned up. So give them some breaks. Make sure you give plenty of room for those plows to work in. We've already had over 20 plows hit this winter alone, and it's only the middle of January. So make sure you get plenty of extra room, extra space for that plow to work around and keep everyone else safe here in Northeast Ohio. And let's take a look at the I-90 around East 185th. Not looking too bad along the at least eastern half of the Cuyahoga County region. So travel not looking too, at least slow at the moment. I'm probably thinking a little bit less than 50, 60 miles an hour for most areas with some of these freeways throughout the next couple of hours. And we might be even below 40 miles per hour with some of these higher snowfall rates happening later tonight into the morning tomorrow. So not too much going on right now. So we're definitely going to see a potential for some more traffic delays during the latter half of the evening through the day tomorrow. So the Power 5 right now picking up a little bit more snow here in Greater Cleveland. It is becoming a little bit more in the way of at least steady in through parts of the Cleveland area. Let's take a little bit more of a closer view here And remember, the radar shoots straight up. So right around that donut hole where the actual radar is, it does look a little bit lighter, but it's not quite that light for sure. A lot more of that snow starts to move into the eastern half of Cuyahoga County. Those darker blues indicating a little bit more of that steady, heavier snow, and that will push into the I-271 corridor, which will be a little bit more in the way of next half hour or so. And a lot of this will continue for the foreseeable future, so not seeing many breaks with regards to snow here in Greater Cleveland. As we head further south, though, let's take a look at the southwestern half of our viewing area towards Ashland and Mansfield. Now, the radar is a few hundred miles away by the time we do get into the southern Mansfield area and points south and west. So the radar not doing a great job at picking up all of this snow. The snow kind of at least hangs out in the lower levels of the atmosphere, and the radar beam goes well above that. So it's not really picking up as much as far as significant snow, but I'm certain there probably is a little bit more of that snow around Mansfield towards the I-71 corridor south, towards at least Lexington, and definitely into parts of central Ohio. So this will be at least a more widespread snow this evening, but once we get past about midnight, things will start to at least lessen up in our southwestern communities for sure. Towards Akron, a little bit more steady snow out there. We can take a look at our Akron camera. Let's take a look at how things are looking towards central parts of Summit County right now, and definitely some snow out there. Roadways not looking too bad across downtown Akron, but certainly some slush starting to make more of a presence known, and certainly a lot of the roofs showing signs of more snow out there. So a lot of this snow is going to be starting to pile up in the next few hours, more slush than anything. First off, especially in through parts of Akron, as we take a look at the Power 5 and go back a few hours, we did actually see a little bit more liquid out of the sky rather than actual snowfall. So we go back about 6 hours, we show a definite change from that rain about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon towards the snowy side of things as that cold air continued to move back into northeast Ohio. Remember, Alan Nosif was on right as that transition was starting to take place between about 3 and 4 o'clock. And definitely that big changeover caused some big issues for some folks traveling, especially around Greater Cleveland, towards the northern half of Summit and Medina County. And that will continue to be a little bit more of a concern once we get to 4, 5, 6 o'clock. And then things started to become a little bit more snowy once we got into the second half of this evening. And once the sun did go down about 5:15, we started to see a little bit more accumulation as we did get into the first half of this evening. So the ground is going to get a lot colder fairly quickly, especially with all these temperatures dropping pretty rapidly behind our front. So we'll be anticipating a definite snowfall accumulation fun for the second half of the overnight tonight, as those temperatures from the north and northwest are plummeting. They're at 15 in Minneapolis, 20 around Chicago, 25 in Cleveland, 26 around Louisville, and all that cold air, as I mentioned, not in the mood to go anywhere anytime soon. So the upper levels of the atmosphere are certainly keeping things very, very cold and very, very active, with several fronts, several clippers, and more snow certainly on the way over the next 5 to nearly 10 days here in Greater Cleveland. So as far as most of the area right now, it is definitely looking very, very snowy here in northeast Ohio. So keep in mind, we'll be looking at those roadways a little bit more treacherous, but a lot of the snow will come at a pretty steady pace of about 1 inch to maybe 2 inches an hour, especially once we get into the snowbelt region, once the lake effect really begins to kick back in during the second half of the overnight tonight. That'll definitely lead to higher totals for the late night, early morning time frame of the day on Thursday. So we're definitely going to see that potential increasing for more significant snow, and those temperatures are going to be well below average, with those winds certainly whipping around. And visibility, not too bad. We can at least pick out the CSU Tower right now, but really having a hard time picking up the Key Tower or even the Terminal Tower here in downtown Cleveland. So a lot of those buildings a little bit more obscured with some of these visibility issues, and those winds are definitely bringing some big changes with north and northwesterly flow. 23 mile per hour winds here in Cleveland, 14 in Mansfield, 24 in Akron, 19 now in Worcester. Look at this, 8 with that wind chill in Worcester, 11 in Akron, about 10 here in Cleveland, and 7 already in Mansfield. So yeah, it's going to get a lot colder, a lot quicker, and these winds are going to be pretty relentless. Thankfully, not gusting too much more than 30, maybe an isolated 40 mile per hour gust possibility throughout the overnight tonight. So not too much damage per se with these winds, but visibilities will certainly be reduced, and it's going to be very cold when you factor in a lot of these wind chills for the latter half of tonight, even into the morning and evening on Thursday, as temps will struggle to warm for the next at least 24 hours. In fact, a lot of the area I don't see hitting more than maybe 20 degrees for a high temperature during the afternoon. So it's going to be a very cold day tomorrow, with many areas at least below zero at times, with some of these wind chills factored back in. So a lot of this snow will linger throughout the next 24 hours, and we'll see a little bit more in the way of snowfall between now and I'd say about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday. But once we get into the end of the afternoon through the evening, it's going to be a little bit better, but it will take some time before all of this snow does start to move out of here, at least temporarily. So take one last look at the Power 5 right now. Definitely some significant snow starting to take shape across most of the viewing area over the last few hours. So this widespread snow will start to move out of here once we get past about 10, 11, 12 o'clock tonight. It'll start to at least taper off a little bit more towards our west and southwestern communities. Remember, those advisories only go through the mid and late morning tomorrow. So past the morning commute for most of our western communities outside of Ashland, Mansfield, Norwalk, and Sandusky. A little bit better throughout the lunch hour tomorrow, but then we'll start to see a little bit more of that transition towards the lake effect side of things, and that'll definitely bring more significant snow to greater Cleveland, Geauga, Ashtabula, even into parts of Portage, Summit, Medina, and Lorain County, also under that threat for more significant snow throughout the latter half of tonight through the morning, early afternoon time frame of the day tomorrow. So definitely want to stay safe, stay warm. Make sure you check on the kiddos and the elderly to make sure their heat is running, because we're going to be needing a lot of those furnaces cranked up during the overnight tonight, and maybe an extra blanket or two on that bed might not be a bad idea. And also, if you don't have to go out, just stay inside. It's going to be pretty much a treacherous evening. If you remember back to New Year's Eve, some of that potential for travel will be that way, especially with some of these higher wind gusts causing more of that snow to kind of snow and blow around those roadways. So a lot of potential for drifting and blowing snow with some of these higher totals. We'll be tracking maybe 8 to 10 to 12 inches in parts of the snow belt once we do wrap up the overnight tonight through the afternoon on Thursday. We'll bring you the latest on everything late tonight for the 11 o'clock news here on News 5, bright and early at 4:30 tomorrow morning with Good Morning Cleveland. We'll have all the latest on all of those potential school closings, delays, anything that comes across our desk. We'll definitely bring that to you. But until then, definitely want to stay safe and stay warm, Northeast Ohio.